In 1903, when the Ford Motor Company was founded, Henry Ford, widely acknowledged as the creator of the assembly line technique of mass production, probably never imagined that 117 years in the future, I'd be playing a game on my PlayStation 4 called Little Big Workshop. Then again, he possibly did. Who knows? And after that intellectual little snippet, welcome to my latest 5-step review. And today, it's all about Little Big Workshop on the PlayStation 4. Before I kick off, I just want to say a big thanks to the developer for providing me with a review code so that I could make this video. Hello everybody, I'm Roy McCoy and welcome to the latest 5-step review. And as I just said, the topic of today is Little Big Workshop. And don't forget, please throw me a like because it really helps these videos to grow. And also, if you do enjoy things like 5-step reviews or my other series, What Happened To, where I take a game and a series from history and ask those all-important questions: what was it, what happened to it, and where is it now? Please consider subscribing to my channel. So, today's 5-step review will go a little bit like this. Step 1, we'll be talking about what it is, like looking at it in a nutshell, a basic summary of the game. Step 2 will be all about those mechanics, how the game functions, things I liked, things I didn't like. And here I'll also be talking about glitches and problems that I noticed. Step 3 will be the story, and I can promise you this time it will be exceptionally short. Step 4, it's the audio and graphics, that look and sound of the game. And finally, in Step 5, probably one of the most important questions you can ever ask: should you buy this game? Is it worth your time and or money? And of course, I'll round that all up with a little conclusion about every single point I made. So, without any further ado, let's crack on to Step 1. What is it? Quite simply, Little Big Workshop is a cartoony, fun-looking management game that focuses on production while you control a factory. And I can say at this point, it is a hell of a lot of fun, it's great to look at, and at times it can become a little bit stressful, but in a very entertaining way. When I first took this game on, the look and feel of the game reminded me somewhat of an updated looking theme park or theme hospital, something like that. Obviously a different subject matter, but it had that kind of feel about it, that fun management look. There's also a lot of things to consider in this game, such as your customer needs, product prices, getting a product out onto the market before it becomes obsolete. You've got to think about your workers, their mental and physical health. You've also got to think about that bottom line, the money management. There's also some fun little challenges to take along the way and some attempts at storytelling, although that isn't really the focus of this game. One thing to note at this point, there is quite a bit of micromanagement involved and things can go badly wrong very quickly, which is where that stress value comes in, although not in a bad way. The same kind of stress that you would get from an overwhelming number of patients on 2 Point Hospital. I also like the fact that a lot of the products were pretty cool. You could make video game consoles that look like a GameCube, you could make robots and like top hats. There were lots of things to get your teeth into and lots of things to think about. And overall, this is a really good management and production game based around a factory with a fun looking feel, and it's beautifully chaotic. However, at this point I'm going to say I did suffer with a few glitches in this game. There were a few problems that I will talk about in my next section. Now, let's talk about Step 2, the game mechanics, the fundamental basics of the game. I need to say at this point, there is no campaign structure, and that is something this game is severely lacking. It is a pure sandbox experience. Now, of course, that gives you a hell of a lot of time of gameplay. It gives you a lot of hours to get your teeth into. But I did feel that it needed a campaign structure, some kind of mission structure, or something more to do other than just a kind of free play mode. Now, in that Sam play mode, or just the game as I'm going to call it from now on because that's the only option you've got, you start off with a tutorial which teaches you the basics. You buy a machine to cut wood, for example, then you buy another machine to paint something, and then before long you buy an assembly station. So you buy different stations and machines so that your operators can create the products. You start off with a simple product, a garden gnome. You take the garden gnome to the wood table, you carve it. Then that gets moved to the painting station and finally the assembly station. And what do you know? You've created your first product, pleasing your customer. And that's basically the fundamentals of the game. Create products, sell them, create products, sell them. Complete little challenges, buy more machines, and hope that you don't go bankrupt. So that in the nutshell is what this game's all about, but you have to think about so many things. For example, if you don't have the correct tools or stations for the job, you can't complete an order. so you have to buy a new machine. But that can eat into your revenue, and if your finances drop too low, and actually this is a point I'm going to mention in a moment, if they drop too low, you go bankrupt. However, their definition of too low and my definition seems to be at odds, because you seem to go bankrupt way too easily. This was one of my biggest bugbears with this game. I seemed to go bankrupt all the time. My money just dropped out of nowhere, and it never felt like I was making progress in terms of a new product creating more and more revenue. I always seemed to be on the breadline, and I found myself restarting from a previous save way too many times. It just felt like the actual options here in terms of money management were way too strict. As soon as you dropped $5,000 down or 5,000 coins down, you were out of the game. And then if you did start from the beginning again, you had to go through that tutorial. Now, possibly if you take a more cautious approach, then yes, you can get better. But again and again and again, I just found myself running out of money way too easily. So along the way, you get challenges from various store owners who ask you to make a product for them. And these products usually need a new machine or something like this, so it encourages you to progress within the game. And these products can be absolutely huge to manufacture. You maybe need many, many more workstations just to complete a single product. And this, I think, is the reason that I kept going bankrupt, because when you take on one of these products, it just monopolizes so much of your space and time, and other products just seem to drop down the list, and before long you know you're investing money in wages and nothing is going out of your factory. Now, one benefit of this, it did mean that you had to micromanage much, much more. You felt really like you needed to be hands-on. There was no point that you could just put on autoplay and just sit back, eat your dinner, and watch it play out. This wasn't like Port Royale 4. That was one of the complaints I had. So actually, this is both a positive and a negative. I do feel that the financial element, the margins were way too strict, but I enjoyed the fact it encouraged you to be more hands-on. I also enjoyed the fact that these challenges, for example, create a bicycle or create some more garden gnomes, came with a time limit. And if you ran out of time, they weren't as happy, and some of the products went to waste. Now, it wasn't all about these interesting little challenges. You also could choose to make a product that was currently available to make on the market. So you would head to the market screen, you would check the profit versus demand to see the best product for you to make at that time. You could then make as many as you want, finances permitting, but if there wasn't the demand there, you couldn't shift them at that time. You'd have to wait till the market ticked over and refreshed. However, if the market ticked over and refreshed and the product became obsolete, you were stuck with a redundant product. So there really was a lot of planning and strategy and thinking ahead in this game to get your teeth into. Now, I need to say this game is hard. Combined with the money management, combined with the products to think about, there's a lot going on in this game. It's not as overwhelming as something like Space Crew, although I absolutely loved that game, and it's not brutally hard, but there is a level of difficulty that I think will really test your managerial skills, and at times annoy and frustrate you. Because if you make a single mistake, for example, you take on a challenge, but you've got a product that's going obsolete, you may end up with a redundant product, and that can really cost you down the line. A simple mistake you make can destroy your business. The gameplay itself is pretty fun, and it works well on a PlayStation. That is something I need to say. The controller functioned perfectly. I found myself playing this game for hours upon end and really enjoying my time. Although at times getting really frustrated, putting down my controller and promising I'd never turn it on again until next time. There were also a selection of mini-games. For example, there were these green creatures that were coming out of people's heads that you had to pop, little gnomes that popped up that you had to kill, and rats that you had to destroy. So there were little mini-games in there as well to keep you entertained. And I found the whole experience really fun. You also had to think about your staff members' mental health and well-being. For example, the rooms, they needed to be decorated so it didn't look too mundane or depressing. And they also needed an area that they could go and relax, a refreshment area. So you could fill that with things like machines and pool tables and video games. There was lots of things to think about and do, and I really enjoyed it. But before I talk about possibly the worst element, I need to say that a couple of quality of life features would have added a lot to this game, and one of those would have been the bank. If you could have had a bank to loan you money, a little bit like the theme park model or the 2-point hospital model, when you're running low on finances, you can get that emergency loan and rebuild. I think that this game would have benefited a lot from it. And like I said, I also think a campaign mode would have added a lot as well. well. Now, let's talk about the worst element of this game. I experienced a number of crashes that shut down the game completely. Also, there were times when things just disappeared. For example, the speed up button or menus just disappeared and I couldn't find them. And the only way to refresh that was by opening up another menu and then they would magically appear back. Also, at times I found that even though I prioritized one product, another product would find its way to the assembly station and my operators would not move the product. And I just found that really frustrating. It just felt like it ruined the experience a little bit for me. The last good thing I'm going to say about this game in the game mechanics section is there was also a leveling up research element that I really enjoyed. You could add new technologies, new machines, new things like, for example, non-slip boots, so my little operators weren't skidding around all over the place. So all in all, on the game mechanics front, it's a great, fun game. A little bit frustrating at times, especially concerning the money management, but fundamentally this is a great game, sadly hampered by 1 or 2 crashes. Now, let's move on to step 3, and let's talk about that story. And that's pretty much it for step 3. No, I'm joking. But it wasn't massive. There was a little bit of characterization with your customers. They would send you messages and sort of have an interaction. And then there was the rival corporations, one of which would call you. He looked a little bit like an evil wizard, and he would call you up and like, haha, you're making rubbish products, haha. And I did enjoy this. I mean, the story, just creating a factory on a tabletop. So, I mean, this game is not focused on story, but the world building in itself was adequate. I mean, it created some kind of element, the same elements like you would get out of theme park. You don't play these kind of games for an overwhelming narrative, but that brings us on to the end of step 3. You can skip that section, but now let's talk about step 4, graphics and audio. This game looks incredible. It has that beautiful cartoony vibe and it looks like an updated and modernized sort of theme park, as I've already mentioned. I love the animations, I loved the mini games, those little gnomes popping up. There was so much that I really enjoyed looking at in this game, and overall this was very pleasing on the eye. The music was fun, but sometimes I found the noises of my staff members, especially when I sped it up to the maximum speed to get the product out, they were just... The noises of these people was just infuriating, especially through my headphones. I had to take my headphones off and turn the TV down a little bit just to play the game, because they literally, the sounds of these people moaning and groaning was in my ears. And I found it really annoying. But when the music kicked in and played out, sometimes the music just seemed to disappear, I found. But sometimes when the music kicked in, it was quite an enjoyable experience. So all in all, graphics great, audio was okay. Now, let's move on to our final section. Step 5. Should you buy this game? And I'm going to say, if you do like those theme games or management games, park management games, games like Parkosaurus, which is also an amazing experience, then this is something you should definitely look at. This is not a chilled game, but it is quite a casual experience. You can drop in and drop out of it, but you do need to micromanagement at certain levels. So if this is your kind of game, then I would definitely advise you to have a look at this. I really thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. It challenged me on many, many levels. Incredibly addictive. I spent hours on this game, promising myself I would never play it again. And the fact that you could have these crazy, insanely big products and you were always teetering on the edge of the breadline if you pushed yourself too far. That's also one of my negatives coming up as well. I like the fact that it's a sandbox game and you've effectively got hours upon hours of gameplay. And the look of the game was just out of this world. Negatives for me, the lack of campaign, the crashing that I hope will get fixed soon, and the finances. Those finances, and that audio, those people talking. But overall, this game is a solid 8 out of 10. It is really that good. Just a little bit of polish and this game would be a certain 9. Let me know in the comments below if there are any other games that you would like me to review in the near future. But on that note, this is Roy McCoy, out!